two JBL Xtreme 2s. Is it twice the fun? Is it twice the sound? So I'm going to take you through what I found just in a quick test, playing them in party mode and stereo mode. So I did some maximum tests. In maximum tests, I used party mode, which is supposed to be the double up mode for the maximum loudness. And I tried it on battery power against one Xtreme 2 in AC mode. The reason for that is because on paper, one Xtreme 2 on AC power is of course 40 watts. I know people are still arguing about this, but as far as I'm concerned, from my experience and what I found, 40 watts on AC power, but 20 watts on battery power. So two Xtreme 2s on battery power, 40 watts, one Xtreme 2 on AC, 40 watts. So what's the comparison then? Is it really worth getting a second Xtreme 2? How much more do you get out of it? Does it change the sound in any way? If you've seen in my other videos, you would have seen that using the Connect button seems to change the sound on all JBL Connect Plus speakers. That's something I'm going to do in another video. But today I just want to take you through what I found playing them in party mode, playing them in stereo, but not at maximum. So in normal listening, getting the volume you like, either with two Xtreme 2s or with one Xtreme 2, but at same volume, because that's how you're playing it. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to play it louder, because obviously it's still the same level of loudness that you want. Two Xtreme 2s in stereo, one Xtreme in normal, only single mode, at the same volume. How much more do you get? Does it change the sound? Do you then get more body? Because that's the thing, you know, so far I found AC power does not change the sound in any way compared to battery power, whereas on the Xtreme 1, AC mode added body to the Xtreme 1 compared to on battery. So I'm going to go straight into it. This is my comparison clips on maximum volume, and the clips are relative. So you hear any differences in the actual sound levels. I haven't adjusted to get them equal volume, so they're relative. You can hear the difference, if any. Let's find out in the volume and in the actual sound itself.
The stormy seas, oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me, hold your hand while the pain was over, keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Take you on by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me.
So just a quick look at the graphs, see exactly what's going on. Two extremes on battery, 40 watts. One extreme on AC, of course, is 20 watts. So you're expecting a 3 decibel difference for twice the power. And there is extreme on AC, and that's exactly what you get, almost. There's a 2 decibel difference in the peaks. So the peaks are 2 decibels louder on my little test across 4 tracks, averaging them out. The interesting thing here is, because when it goes to party mode and you've got them paired, there's a dip between the 3 and the 6,000 hertz that isn't there on the non-party mode on a single speaker. So because of that loss there, on average, they are exactly the same average loudness, but the peaks are louder on the battery, but slightly less than you would expect on paper. So it's not the 3 decibels, it's 2 decibels, although we're only talking about peaks. So it isn't what I expected. I expected a 3 decibel definite difference, and it isn't, because the sound has changed. There's a dip between 3 and 5,000. However, it sounds great because the speakers are separated, but other than that, there is a slight detriment to the sound. The actual thing that gives it the forward vocals, which I quite like, on a single Xtreme 2, you're losing that in party mode. Between the single Xtreme maximum AC and battery, again, just to show you, basically exactly the same. The only difference being, on average, there is exactly the 3 decibel difference you'd expect because of half the power. And the peaks, also exactly 3 decibels difference. Looking at what the actual frequency response is on the original tracks, that's exactly what it looks like. And if you're wondering if that dip in the party mode was anything to do with accuracy, it clearly isn't. There isn't a dip there. Yeah, well, the Xtreme on the single Xtreme is clearly more accurate. It's not exactly the last word in accuracy, but it is more accurate than 2 in party mode. So yet again, you know, I do buy a lot of JBL speakers as pairs, and it does change the sound. You do get this drop in clarity in the, you know, around high mids, that sort of area. Is it the extra processing? I don't know, but it does kind of mess with the sound. So you've got the two flip sides. You've got the fact that you've got now, you know, doubling the power. You can separate them out. Obviously, it gives you more possibilities. On the other hand, for pure listening, if you just want to enjoy your music, although I don't think it's a hi-fi speaker, I don't think it's a speaker you're really going to buy, you know, if you're looking for nuances in your music and to analyze your music, this is not a speaker for you. However, it's better than the Xtreme 1 for that sort of thing. It is a smoother frequency. It is a smoother frequency response. However, one Xtreme 2 on its own definitely has a different frequency response than in double up mode, or as they call it, party mode. They originally called it double up mode, now it's party mode. But I'd say, you know, it is good to be able to separate them, but, you know, it's not a cheap speaker, so only you can say if it's going to be worth it to you, spending the extra money on an extra speaker. You're certainly going to, if you're only ever going to use it on battery power, suddenly you have doubled your power. Double your power, of course, doesn't double the sound, adds about 3 decibels, so it's just under, well, it's about 30% is actually how much louder it will go. So the other question was it like in stereo mode? Now, Connect Plus, the big difference between Connect Plus and Connect is that on Connect, you can set your speakers into stereo mode and forever. You will never have to touch the app again because they will always be in stereo mode until you want to go to party mode. However, with Connect Plus, because of the way it works, every time you start your music, you have to come in and set them in the app to stereo mode. And you're also always going to get this up to about 10-second lag between when you start your music and when they actually sync with each other. And that's with just 2 speakers. God knows if you actually had 100 speakers, how long it takes to sync. And it's not just the first time. If you stop for a couple of minutes and then start again, there is a lag as they start syncing up again, which is weird because they're connected, just not synced for some reason. It's the way Connect Plus works. However, what I was trying to say was, it's been a bit of a nightmare using Connect Plus because 70% of the time it doesn't recognize the speakers, can't go into stereo mode. Even if it does recognize it got both speakers there, it won't let you go into stereo mode. It says speaker not found, even though it's got a picture of both speakers there. However, I did find it a little better on the Xtreme 2s. Not saying it was perfect, but I would say 70% of the time it was pretty straightforward to connect. So to connect to stereo. So we'll try it out. Let's see how many times I take to get them into stereo. So, as with all the JBL speakers, of course, first of all, you turn it on. You get your welcome tone, which you can disable if you want in the app. So that's my first speaker on. I'm going to put my second speaker on. Go into connect mode. So it's your connect button, your connect button. Now, I don't know if anything's happened until I go into the app. So, going into my JBL Connect app, it's got my first one. Still waiting to see if it picks up my second one. I couldn't be much closer, could I? It's still not seeing it. Right, now it's seeing the second one. You normally have to wait till the second one has a green bar as well. Otherwise it's not going to work. That's the error message you keep getting. Now it's got the green bar. Try stereo, and it's worked. So definitely a lot improved. All the other JBL speakers that I've tried with Connect Plus. So the Flip 4s and my Charge 3s are a nightmare. This is definitely a big improvement. If you're looking to play in stereo, and which means you've got to use the app, it's a lot easier. It does work most of the time now with Xtreme 2. Brilliant. So, okay, I've got them in stereo. What does it sound like? So this is what it sounds like in stereo, playing at the same sound levels against a single Xtreme 2. It's all done on battery. I didn't think it was important to go to AC because it's not about the volume levels. I know going to AC doesn't change the sound anyway. So it's just a straight shootout between having them in stereo, 2 of them, or having one just on its own. Is it worth paying double the money? Is it double the fun? Is it double the volume? Well, it's never going to be double the volume. If you double the power, you only go up 3 decibels on paper. So this is what it sounds like. So it's really interesting looking at the difference between a pair of Xtreme 2s on stereo and a single Xtreme 2, all on battery power. The first thing you can see is it's a leaner sound when you go to stereo. Bear in mind, these are 70 centimeters apart. So obviously you go to stereo, you've now got 4 passive radiators. Against 2, you're expecting a bit more slam in the bass. You've also got 2 inward firing passive radiators, whereas normally if you're face on to a single Xtreme 2, the passive radiators are both firing away from you. When you separate them out in stereo, you've got passive radiators firing towards each other. So you're going to get a bit more of that bass. So you've got a bigger bass peak when it comes to the stereo, but then you lose a bit in the rest of the music. The other notable thing is the dip around 3,500 hertz that isn't there on the single. So much stronger at the high end on the single Xtreme 2. You can hear that when you listen to the tracks. So it's really obvious stereo has more bass slam, and it's really obvious a single is more clear and more defined, but the stereo imaging is very pleasing. It's enough for me to overcome what you lose from a single in terms of the clarity of the sound. It's more fun, I would say, however. You are losing some clarity. So I've recorded these to try and be the same level. So I've left the gain exactly the same on the Zoom F4, and I adjusted the volume. So to your ears, when I was recording it, to my ears, they were around the same volume. However, what you do find is when you dig into the stats, that apart from the very obvious 5 decibel bigger bass peak, although it's in the same place, obviously you've just got 4 passive radiators and not 2 now, so that's 60, well, it's like 55 hertz bass slam. It's a good 5 decibels, 4.5 decibels louder on the stereo pair. However, the average decibel, so the average, in real terms, the average loudness is 2 decibels louder on the Xtreme 2 when it's on its own, with a single Xtreme 2, because you're getting more in the rest of the music. So you're not getting the dips at the high end, and you're getting more of the mids compared to the stereo. So it is a different frequency response. Very different. And the real interesting thing, as I said, was it's 2 decibels louder for a single one on average, but the RMS, which is the average of the peaks, is 1.5 decibels louder on the stereo pair. Obviously, 0 decibels is the loudest, so minus 22 is quieter than minus 14, just as an example. So the peaks are louder on a stereo pair, but the average sound is louder on a single Xtreme 2. But you're probably more aware of the peaks, you're certainly more aware of that bass slam, but you also are aware of the fall away in the clarity and the higher ends and the upper mids. So I found that pretty interesting, and it's really going to be a matter of taste. You can't get away from the fact that separating out the speakers is really pleasing to get a decent stereo image. But it's a shame that when you go to the Connect, and in my theory being it can't handle too much processing when it's in Connect mode, you're getting fall away in the rest of the frequency response. So it's a noticeably leaner sound. It's more in line with an Xtreme 1. If you like the Xtreme 1 rather than the Xtreme 2 sound, you're probably going to like a pair of Xtreme 2s. Does come at a cost. So overall, I have to say, it's double the money. It is a lot of money for not the greatest speaker in the world, but it is a lot of fun. It is highly portable. It's the JBL form factor. The jury's out on whether it's truly playable in water, which is never really going to be, is it? Because it floats with the drivers down. So it's a bit of a moot point. It's certainly going to be splash proof, but you know, if you were buying this to play in water anyway, it was always going to be a non-starter, although it does float. Yeah, so is it double the fun? For me, I have to say, it's still really highly dependent on what music I'm playing. There's some tracks I'm thinking, oh, it sounds awful, you know, because the mids aren't great, and there's a big hole if, you know, depending on the track. Now, it loves dynamic tracks and it loves modern tracks. And so, you know, the tracks I've been playing are the sort of music it seems to really gel with nicely. It's certainly not an all-round speaker. However, the point of this video is it worth getting a second Xtreme 2? I would say it is if you really like the Xtreme 2 and you're not going to be really put out by the loss in clarity when you play them in stereo or party mode. It is great fun to separate them out. It is really engaging, I have to say. So I'm pleased playing them as a pair. I'm not thinking, oh, that was a complete waste of money, but I'm thinking it's a lot of money for that speaker, but if I'm going to use this speaker, I'm going to use this form factor, which, you know, I can't get away from saying is a big part of why I like JBL speakers. It's not like a shape like a brick or a handbag, and it's really usable. I can take that to the beach, or I can throw it in a bag. It's very usable. Can easily hold that in a hand. Obviously, it's down to you whether the extra money's worth it, but it certainly does add another dimension. I'm not going to say it improves the music. It clearly doesn't. You lose clarity, but it does give it another dimension when you play them in stereo and you can get them well separated out. And don't forget, of course, you've then got 4 passive radiators. You are going to get a bigger bass slam when you add a second or more. You can get over 100 apparently, but obviously, you know, a big deal is that if you're looking for bass slam and you was a big fan of the Xtreme 1, and although these go lower, don't have quite the slam of the Xtreme 1, of course, adding the second does even the tables, although at double the money. So, hope you got something out of that, and thank you for watching.
UK